This is the last chapter of Thesis, that is chapter 7, and that is the conclusion and recommendations. You conclude your whole thesis and you also give some future outlook, some recommendations at the end of your thesis. For instance, if somebody want to read your thesis, so he or she will read what you achieve in your PhD, but either he or she can get some future recommendations that what somebody need to do something in the future so that your results can be improved, can be enhanced. So this is why we give the name conclusion and recommendations. So basically, as I explained that before every chapter we write a short introduction, but as this is the last chapter of our thesis, so we do not need to write introduction, but we just need to start direct from conclusion. So you remember that my result discussion was basically 3 chapters, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6. And in this conclusion, we do not need to write about chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3. We will just write about little bit about the first chapter, the objectives, but chapter 2 and chapter 3 we will not touch even, because this is the conclusion, and you conclude what you conclude, basically what you achieved during your PhD. You did some experiment, you just get some results, so you are concluding that. Let's read this. So this is the conclusion basically. Broad scope of this study was to develop SNO2 morphologies to fabricate highly efficient dye-sensitized solar cell on account of its high electron mobility. Because why we choose this material? Because of only and only in this thing. You see, why we choose tin oxide? Only for high electron mobility. Experimental results described in chapter 4, 5, 6 show that the specific objectives, which we outline in chapter 1 have been achieved. Very nice. You see, we define some objective in our chapter that we will achieve our target. For that we set some objectives, and those objectives have been achieved in chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6. You see here, the novelty of the work is that SNO2 has been developed as an electrode possessing simultaneously all the outstanding properties required for any high performance in dye-sensitized, such as high specific area, high crystallinity, and mobility, superior light scattering. We just require these things. Furthermore, a composite in this system as nanofiber has been developed possessing favorable conduction band position for high open circuit voltage. You remember in our result discussion in pure we just receive low open circuit voltage, and when we make composite, so we overcome that issue. Now look here, I just say major conclusion or this major conclusion. Number 1, in this I explain the chapter 4. Here you see the multifunctional nanosphere nanoparticles, and I explain briefly that what was the efficiency. This is the efficiency, and this is the current basically. This is the briefly about the chapter 4. In the chapter 5, I just develop one-dimensional nanostructure using electrospinning here. You see electrospinning method, and I just characterize those electrospinning nanofibers, and we just test in efficient device dye-sensitized solar cell, and we got this efficiency. You see here. And the chapter 6, we just make a composite here. The efficiency achieved in the above 2 studies are far lower than the conventional titania. Titania is the successful material people use in dye-sensitized solar cell. But why I choose tin oxide, that is another story I explained in my first chapter. But when we say that in chapter 4 and chapter 5, in the above 2 studies, our efficiency was far lower than this. Then we make a composite to achieve those objectives and to overcome or to get the result comparable to the titania. And by doing that, our efficiency reached to 8% and our current is 22, so almost comparable. But efficiency is still lower, but the current is comparable. And this is, we also make the composite here. You see the composite, and there we also achieve. So this is basically my chapter 6, as you remember, the composite one. So this is, I conclude my work in a very brief way. Now this is the outlook and future recommendations. You see, in the conclusion, you have to conclude your thesis and you have to give some outlook, some future recommendation. Look this. The question that need to be answered at the end of the study are, how far the efficiency of tenaxide SN2 could be increased? And up to what level we can increase the efficiency? And the second, what strategies are required for it? This question we need to answer that. For example, I achieved 8% efficiency, and basically the dye-sensitized solar cell titanium efficiency is almost 14%. So up to what level we can increase the efficiency? And further we say that the theoretical limit of this solar cell is 31%, and titanium only reached to 14%, but I just reached to 8% or 7%. So what strategy we need to adapt here? You see, the best performance solar cell in pristine is this, and composite is this. We achieved very beautiful things. The theoretical efficiency is 31%. Titanium achieved this, but what I achieved is 8% and 3 to 4% in pure and 8% in composite. You see, why this is the low? Because of its lower conduction band with respect to most of the sensitizer dyes. You see, although the present study shows that an oxide and sensitizer are simultaneously yielding comparable, but we got comparable VOC and fill factor. The photocurrent is limited in such devices due to lower surface roughness. One promising direction in this scenario to further develop the composite wires with high surface area. If we develop composite wire with high surface area and increase the surface roughness. Moreover, multiporous tungsten nanofiber has a potential application. This is we give future recommendation. You see, in sensor catalysis in lithium-ion batteries. This is we give future recommendation owing to its desirable charge transport properties associated with high specific surface area. So this is just we give the future recommendations that if somebody is interested in tungsten nanoparticles or nanostructures, so this material has also a potential application and sensors and catalysis and lithium-ion batteries. You see, in lithium-ion batteries. So this is very interesting to give the future recommendation about your work and also to conclude. So the result discussion chapter is basically the conclusion and outlooks. Recommendation chapter is basically composed of conclusion and future recommendation or outlook and future recommendation. So in conclusion part, you just conclude your whole result discussion chapter, only result discussion chapter. You conclude the whole result discussion chapter, and outlook and future recommendation, you give suggestion, future recommendations that who is going to take this work and reach to some higher level. Thanks for watching.